Alan's just said yes.
Ready when you are, Jules.
And I'm just going
I'm going to just share my window. Now, I realised that I created my slides in Canva, and Canva doesn't give you the option. It only gives you the option for like full screen, which I know doesn't work. So you'll just need to bear with my lovely border around everything. Hello, there's a lot of faces that I don't know. So hello everyone, I'm Jules and I'm a brand designer and strategist. And primarily I have been a designer now for going into my 3rd decade, so my whole career, and I, you can tell, love design and it's the only job I ever thought I'll ever do. I'm also Design in Your Pocket, and this is where I create branded templates for my clients in Canva and teach them how to use Canva to create their own graphics as well and be their own designer. And I'm not going to focus on the visual aspect of your brand identity, because actually there is so much strategy has to go into your thoughts, and before we even get to what your logo looks like and what color schemes and fonts and things that you use. There is so much work we have to put in before that. And when I work with my clients, often the first introduction to them is, I need a logo. And they often think once they have their logo, it's something to tick off the list and it's done. And there is so much influences our buying behavior, our reasons for choosing one company over another and one brand over another. But I think we have got so used to doing that in our everyday lives, we tend to forget that this also applies to our own business as well. And so understanding what drives our own audience and our own to work with us helps us then target that marketing to draw more people like that to our business. So how is it possible that a consumer would be willing to pay more for exactly the same thing? And again, this is something we all wrestle with in our minds, is how do we cost our services? How do we cost our products? How much is our competition? We have to be cheaper, and cheaper is not always the way to go. It's not, price point is one of the least deciding factors in our buying decisions. So if you think about the car that we decide to buy, the TV that we decide to purchase, to our domestic appliances, from our kettles to our washing machines, there are hundreds of different brands, but we definitely in our minds know which brand we want to go for. And how often is the price deciding factor in that? You are often going on an emotional decision rather than a logical or a rational one. And basically, perceptions is everything in branding. It's our reputation, which also becomes our brand equity. Now, how your willingness to pay more than something, then you know you can get it cheaper. What is the reasons behind those decisions to pay more money for something? And this is what I'm going to delve into a bit today. So, for example, Apple. I am a big Apple advocate, love Apple products. I know they are way dearer than anything else in the market, but I just love the whole experience of using Apple products. I am willing to pay that extra price for it. They brand themselves as being innovative and modern, and that they're the best of the best. So they have managed to establish that reputation, which means they can charge the higher prices. And so also friends and family influence our buying decisions. And it can be, you have our whole family is Apple products. But you also have people on the opposite edge who hate Apple products and are fully Microsoft. And often there's no middle ground. You either hate a product and a brand or you love it. And that's actually what you want to drive with your own brand. You want people to either love, not so much hate, but if you have somebody who's indifferent, then you don't have any loyalty. You're not going to have any advocates. You won't have anyone speaking out about your brand. You want to capture those people who love what you do and love what you're about, because they're going to be the ones who go out and influence other people into also loving your brand as well. One big influence recently, obviously, is social media, and they can influence brand perception. There is a slogan now of TikTok made me buy it, and there are some brands who have just went off the scale because they've managed to tap into user stories and people talking about their products and how much they love them. And the minute you get user-centered content of people describing your products, how much they love them, other people, the perception then is that this must be a really good product. And it's became such a viral thing that the slogan TikTok made me buy it is now there. And I have been influenced that myself with buying some products off of TikTok that I probably never would have bought, but they keep appearing on my feeds from different people. So social media is a huge influence as well on what products and brands we are drawn to. So one good example of this is, why do we choose to purchase bottled water when tap water is free? So this is, and it depends, depends on geography, it can depend where you live. Obviously, where I am up in Scotland, the tap water is lovely, and you know how we all regularly drink tap water. I visited friends down in London who would never ever dream of drinking the tap water because they say there's a horrible taste to it, and they constantly have bottled water in the fridge to drink. But again, the price of bottled water can vary hugely. You can get the big massive gallon containers that are like Tesco value, Asda value, etc. You can get more local brands, Highland Spring. And think about when you're in a supermarket and you go to pick up a bottle of water, what makes you choose one brand over another? What draws you to that brand? It could be that some people have very acquired taste and feel they can taste the difference between the different water brands. It can be purely price driven. They just want to quench their thirst and just buy the cheapest product on the shelf. Other times it can just be convenience and what's there, or you might quite happily just fill up from the tap. This brand I came across, and they are limited edition. They are only sold through Harrods, and the water is harvested from melted icebergs. And they charge £80 per bottle. Now that just seems extreme. However, they have a market. Why do they have a market? What is it about this brand that people are willing to pay £80 for it when you can literally get the same bottle of water for £1? So this is really important to kind of tap into, that price point is not a driving factor in our buying decisions. The people who are buying this, one, know it's very exclusive. There's only a certain number of bottles harvested each year. You can only get it through the one place, Harrods, which again is known to be high end and luxurious environment, so people expect to pay more money, and they are very much tapping into that demographic so that they can charge an extortionate amount of money for a bottle of water that I wouldn't be willing to pay, but they are, and there is a market there for that. Again, this is quite a famous one, the Tiffany paperclip. Now, the silver one is $165, and the gold paperclip is $1,500. Now, think about that. Why on earth would you pay that much money and to call it a bookmark? Now, one, I would probably lose that within 5 minutes, but there is obviously a market there and people are willing to pay this. And again, it's just kind of a useful way to know that when you are working out your marketing strategy, your business plan, that you cannot just rely on what your competition's price points are, because it's all related to brand value. Now, Tiffany's couldn't just go out there and launch this without any brand history and how brand perception and brand voice out there. How they've earned that price. They are seen as inspirational. Like, everyone wants a Tiffany's engagement ring, so now they have to earn that higher price. But if their branding isn't good, and their materials aren't good and their reputation isn't good, then you cannot afford to put a premium price on your product. And this is what you have to have, that whole brand experience behind you to warrant that price point. Yeah, the market, it's crazy. It is crazy, but I think there's a market for everything basically out there. And this one I found really interesting, Crocs. So in the year 2000, I think there was like at market 200 pairs made by the original creators who created the Crocs. They were created to be literally breathable work shoes now in a manufacturing environment. They were huge now nurses and doctors wear them because they're extremely, extremely comfortable. There was one point they were on the verge of going bust anyhow, and the company was not performing well. And then all of a sudden, in the last couple of years, there's been an uptrend, and Crocs have suddenly became very, very fashionable. I'm wearing, yeah, I've got blue ones on right now. I have 5 pairs of Crocs. Now, as somebody who's a former lover of high heels, which cannot wear anymore, I find myself wearing Crocs because they are extremely comfortable. They're seen as functional, cheap, but one of the big influences was they created limited editions. They linked up with Justin Bieber, like who someone's Drake, Pharrell, have all been seen wearing Crocs. So suddenly they tapped into the younger Gen Z, well, not millennials, Gen Z, in fact, like demographic. And they were the ones who started driving, like the drive for like wearing Crocs. And there's over 69 million pairs sold in 2020. And it just shows how perception and outside influences can really drive the brand value of a company and their worth and fashions, and how these things can fluctuate, how one minute you can be seen as horrible shoes that are just like functional into something literally a fashion statement, and that people wear to fashion shows and to concerts and wear on stage. So that one, I just think it's a very look at me, and it's almost seen as a badge of honor how ugly they are, but they're really, really popular now. So what's the answer to all this? The answer is still branding. But when I talk about branding, I'm not just talking about your visual identity. I'm talking about everything now. When you hear my name, you are already making assumptions on what I'm like. As I'm talking to you now, you're getting a sense of what kind of personality I have, what my kind of values are, how my personal style, but you don't know what my goals and dreams are and what inspires me. This all makes up what my brand is. And your business has a brand too. And whether you do no marketing, whether you've never got a logo, whether you've never established any visual identity, you still have a brand, because people are still coming into contact with your business, whether it's with you in person, whether it's online, whether it's on socials. They're still building up a brand perception of what your business is, and you have to try and mold that into what you want them to perceive you like. So I always stress the importance of, you have to decide what you want these associations to be, and you need to steer them in the direction you want them to be, because people will make an assumption about you whether you want to or not. So you want to try and make it the right one. Coca-Cola is an interesting one. So a few years ago, they were marketed with a 200 billion market value if they were to sell, but their actual tangible assets are only worth 90 billion. And that's, the rest of it is made up of perceived brand value. So their company is worth so much more money because of the value they have built up with creating such a strong brand and brand perception. And it just shows you how valuable it is to create a strong brand for your business. I'm going to go through a few examples of well-known brands here, because these are ones that create quite a distinct, you either like them or you don't like them. And one is obviously Costa and Starbucks. Now, I laugh about this one because I don't actually like coffee, so I'm not really too bothered about either of them. But people definitely either are Costa drinkers, coffee drinkers, or Starbucks coffee drinkers. Some people might prefer Costa because they've got nice banana bread. Starbucks has even created, see, definitely Costa. So Richard, why Costa? If you can answer in the comments, like, why do you like Costa? Because it's, you're like, definitely Costa. And again, this is the thing, people have very strong opinions on both of them. Starbucks have even created a bit of a community around it all, and I've taken it away, but I've got one of their branded cups, and you can either buy the espresso China cups, and there's a different one in each city that you go to, so you can build collectibles. And their ethos is the same thing. They both sell coffee. There you go, Costa, too sugary, or try both. Yeah. So I kind of judge them by who does the best hot chocolate. So yeah, that's what I kind of drink. I don't drink coffee. This one is an interesting one. Yep, Costa feels more local. Yep. McDonald's and Five Guys. Now, McDonald's is very much your fast, grab something to eat, it's cheap, it's easy to eat, it appeals to kids. And then there's Five Guys, who are like the very opposite range. They are very much, it's bloody expensive for a burger in Five Guys, but their whole ethos is, all we do is burgers. We don't do anything else. So we don't do the fish fillets, we don't do the veggie burgers, we don't do nuggets. We literally just do burgers, but we do them really, really well. And you'll have people that are willing to spend a lot more money, 4 times, 5 times the price for a burger than they will at McDonald's, because they're buying into that whole ethos of it's a quality product that they're getting. So even though it's still fast food, it's still wrapped up in paper and you get it in a wee paper bag, then Five Guys have managed to tap into a market. And every time I've walked by one or went into one, it's always mobbed. And my kids, hands down, will vote for a Five Guys over a McDonald's. Even though, like, when they were younger, they would like see the McDonald's sign and now absolutely go for McDonald's burger. So it just shows you that they are very much at two ends of the scale, but they are both thriving, successful businesses, and they essentially sell the same product in very, very different ways and have loyal customers for both. Again, I kind of touched on the Apple and the Microsoft. This causes great big divides. You either love Apple or you love Microsoft. And it kind of goes without saying that actually Apple products I used before I even touched Microsoft, because I started my design career and Apple was a product that designers used. However, after 10 years working in-house for the civil service and having to use Microsoft products, I detest them even more after having to use them for 10 years. Because I just found them so frustrating, so not intuitive, as Apple products are, and are lovely to use. Frustrating that they crashed every 2 minutes, or you had to update every other blooming day. To me, I just found the whole experience of using Microsoft products frustrating. But you'll get people who just will not touch an Apple product, no matter what. They don't like the values of the brand, or they don't like the Steve Jobs, they don't like him personally, so then they don't like any products related to the business. And that's the thing, when you have to get a public face to a brand, even though he's no longer around, it still puts people off. So the brand personality that you have has a great influence in our buying decisions as well. And I'll be interested to know here who are Apple product lovers and who are Microsoft product lovers. And if you can put that in the chat for me, that would be fun. Apple. The last one, Coca-Cola. Now, again, exact same product. But have you ever noticed, if you go into a restaurant and you are ordering drinks and you say, can I have a Coke, please? And they go, oh, we don't have Coke, it's Pepsi, sorry. They apologise as they're saying it, almost as if they're seen as the lesser product. And I don't know how many of you guys remember the Pepsi Coke challenge. I don't know if it was the 80s or the 90s as well. You did the blind testing, how you'd have to guess if you were drinking Coke or Pepsi. Again, this one doesn't really have a price difference. They're roughly the same price, so there's no competition that way. However, you really do have people who are firmly Pepsi drinkers or firmly Coca-Cola drinkers. I was in it. Yes, absolutely, Tricia, I totally agree. You can tell a lot from the genuinity, is that a word? It's not a word, I'm going to make that word. I quite like that word. Of a brand by how happy and engaged the people are that work in there. I actually was last week in Sydney and showing the Canva offices, and I have never ever walked in somewhere where there was genuine happiness for people to be at work, and every single person I spoke to in there said they genuinely loved working for Canva, that now how they could never see themselves leaving. People started to stay there. And I have been in lots of businesses and organisations and worked in agencies and civil service, and I've never seen a happier environment. And that's something that's very difficult to capture, that community. And it's a bit like that. Richard, I've not heard that. I'm going to need to check that out. And about competitive. Yep, good. Let's see. I'm just conscious of my time, so I don't want to kind of go on too much. So consumers are not just consumers, they're looking for a connection. They want to work with a brand or buy from a brand that they feel reflects them and their needs and their values and aspirations. And one thing I've noticed is with my own clients is, oh my God, about 80-90% of them are dog owners. And that's because in my own socials, when I'm chatting, I am constantly talking about my dogs. I share my dogs on my stories and on my posts. And I lost my wee one, Scooby, last year. And I had so many people when he was ill reach out to me and ask about him, inquire about him. And when I've asked some people why they want to work with me, one of the first things they'll say is, the minute I saw you had a dog and you talk about your dog so much, I knew I'd got on with you because I also love my dog. So just sharing that bit about your life, and I very purposely did that because I have kids, but I don't want to put my kids on socials. Like, they don't want to be on my socials. So this is a way for me to show up a bit about what I'm like in my personal life, and people really connected with that. And so you need to kind of show up about what you're like, because if you do that, then you'll naturally attract people like you to your business, and you'll enjoy working with them because you'll have similar interests and similar values and aspirations. I think the days of being completely clinical in how we approach how we run our business and how we want to be seen is gone. Everyone is all about that personal connection and understanding those brand stories. So the more you know about decisions that are most important to your audience and the processes, emotions and attachments behind them, the better place you are to influence them. And this is when your actual visual identity comes into play, because if you understand about your customer and who your target audience is, then you know how to tailor that content to appeal to them. And there's lots of techniques that businesses have applied, like supermarkets. They'll place flowers at the front of the store so that they can create that environment where there's something lovely to look at. If the fresh smell of flowers grabs your attention. The bakery they place right at the back corner of the store because they want you to go through all the aisles to get to the baking up at the back. And in shops that play the kind of upbeat music, they want you to be upbeat as they're walking around their store, and it kind of boosts your attention, and you kind of spend a wee bit more money. If the music is low in tone and pull back, you kind of relax a bit more, and you might just stroll right out the store and not purchase anything. So I'm going to leave you with 5 factors that really influence consumer behaviour. And this is when often people kind of work out their brand personas and do a bit of brand strategy. They kind of keep it at one layer, which is the person's age, where they live, what their job is, if they have a family, that kind of things. But really you have to dig a bit deeper. You have to look at the psychological factors that are there too, like their attitudes and their beliefs and the perception of the brands they want to buy from, There's social factors we need to take into play here, like how their family influences their buying decisions, the friends they have around them. My son's a teenager, he's 14 at high school, and right now there is a certain brand of trainer that every single kid is wearing. So the influence within among their peers is really strong. Cultural factors like what your basic values are and where you come from and where you live. And then economic factors as well, like your own personal income, your family income, how much money you have to spend, what your savings are, all influence our buying decisions. And then lastly, the personal factors like what your age is, your occupation, lifestyle. So really dig deep and think about these, because it really will help you understand your target client and then how to create content and marketing that's going to appeal to them. And so the more we learn about and define our target market, the more we can tailor our branding and our content to resonate with them. So this is when you start thinking about the colours, because there's a whole psychology behind colour, the typefaces we use, the photography and everything else. So yes, so then thank you so much for listening to me warble on. I think we have 5 minutes left for any questions. Oh my goodness, so the dog in my visual on the slides, that's Scooby that I'm holding, and Nessie is my border collie, and I'm holding him because he has passed away, but I used to carry him a lot because of heart condition. So it's a very personal logo because it kind of gives a wee bit of insight into me and how much I love my dogs. And Nessie, her tail is down because she's an introverted dog I've ever had. She's very shy. So yes, so I'm going to start sharing, but if you've got any questions for me, please do let me know or feel free to chat away. Adam. Oh yeah, the trainers, yes, absolutely. My goodness, my son just pesters me all the time that he has to have. And I'm thinking, I spend more on your trainers than I do on myself. There's something wrong here, seriously. But the influence is high. And they all have the same Nike training top for school as well. But oh, I can't hear you, Adam.
One of those things that's so important, like having the right sort of brands when you're younger, because you forget about it when you're older. You dress however you want to dress. You have the confidence. You ignore what other people are thinking. But when you're young, that brand influence is unbearably strong. The amount of trends and things is overwhelming. And it's quite funny how it's different from teenagers to adulthood, and how adults we have to play a different angle. We have to capture it in a different way, as it were. We're so easily influenced when we're younger.
Yeah, but we're still, to be honest, still even now in my 40s, you're still influenced. It's like whether it's the brand of car you buy or what your friends have, and whether they like the car or how they describe it and stuff. I mean, I've got a car, and my dad always has a shot in my car. My dad is on my driving license, so I give him a spare key because he borrows a car. And within the months of me buying my car, my dad bought the same car because he loved it that much that it influenced him to go and trade in his car and change it to the same one I had. So that was family influence. He wasn't interested in changing his car before that. Yeah. And sometimes I don't even realise a lot of the influences are in the subconscious, and there are emotional reasonings behind them. We don't even realise that's the way we think, and we don't even realise that's the driver behind it. So there's so much there that's like deep within the subconscious. Yes, but thank you all for listening to me warble on today.
Absolutely loved it. It was really good. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jules. Really, really super. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Now I can just relax for the rest of the day. Go for a nap.
I told you, bathe in that post-adrenaline sort of rush as you got.
Yeah, I'm going for sleep.
Oh, new poll. Does anyone know where the day has gone? I don't. I can't believe it's 4 o'clock already. All right.
Right.
Bye for now, Jules. Loved it.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.